To our September 13th finance meeting. We'll start with a roll call. I am here, Councilmember Evans, Councilmember Watson, and Councilmember McClymans will be sitting in for Deputy Mayor Carter. We'll go to reports and presentations, personnel update. Brian, welcome.
Thank you very much. Did everyone get the weekly staff meeting update? I can pass around the versions that I have now.
The September 9th version?
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, I've got that one.
Okay. Okay. We do have an assistant planner starting on the 16th coming up here. And some conditional offers have been sent over for a senior building inspector and accounting specialist cashier. Those might have been, I think the senior building inspector actually, the offer was sent today. And so we did have interviews for the maintenance worker 2, so we're making a decision on that. We did have interviews on 9-1 for the police officer position, interviewed 2 laterals, 1 passed the oral board, 1 did not pass. Then we have an upcoming separation of Al Young in a couple of days.
We've been hearing that for years.
Mm-hmm. And I'm told they said they can cover it for now until we find somebody, I guess.
Yeah, we got Kyle, the mechanic.
Any questions?
Nothing for me.
Keep me busy. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go back to business and action items, AB 22-106, Resolution 3068, Amendment Number 3 to the agreement with Murray's Disposal for collection and disposal of solid waste, recyclables, and yard waste. Mr. Vodafich.
This would be our 3rd amendment to our agreement with DM, now Murray's Disposal. Murray's Disposal through DM has been providing service to the city for solid waste disposal since 2004. The current contract is set to expire on December 31st of this year, 2022. So I've been working together with Josh and came up with this proposed 3rd amendment that would extend the services through the next 10 years and provide for a one-time 3-year extension. And as was introduced earlier, Josh is here if you have any questions about the intent of the amendment. Has been reviewed and approved by Kathleen.
You said this is a 3-year? I thought it was 10.
No, 10 years with a 3-year.
With a one-time 3-year,
1 year
automatic if there's nothing.
Yes. So it'll be 13 years.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
I mentioned to Josh briefly, and usually during this time we talk about things we cut back on, save the citizens some money or something else to benefit our city. You're always helping us in everything going on in Vince, which is wonderful. I appreciate that. But is there anything else we can do, like having more recycle days for our citizens possibly? I know when the truck sometimes comes out, it's pretty full.
Yeah.
Other type of events you can help our citizens that way.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're always willing to take suggestions, expand. The truck comes out, it gets full pretty quickly. Always willing to add an additional truck and do what it takes to provide those exceptional services, those special events to the citizens. I think in addition to that, and I know sort of in jest asking, you're here to talk discounts, right? And that's what everybody's looking for these days, right? Everywhere you turn, inflation is real in everything. And I think one of the things that we looked hard at with this proposal was at which relevant index was used for the CPI. As many of you know, each year the rates are adjusted typically for 2 things: whatever the change in the disposal rate is at the landfill, but in addition to that, for the change in the consumer price index. And over the last 5 years that I've worked in this area, I've heard many times from folks in this city and in others that we're not Bellevue, we're not Seattle, we're not Tacoma, yet the relevant index in the contract is the Seattle Tacoma Bellevue Index. There is a utility index, and being a utility provider, you may be familiar with this index, but it's trash, water, sewer. It's much more relevant to what we experience, the inflationary pressures that we experience in our industry. And as you look at inflation this year, for instance, the 100% of the trash, water, sewer is currently tracking at 4.63% versus the geographical index, and per the existing contract, 80% of the geographical index is currently tracking at 7.23%. So, taking a look at what makes most sense, how can we provide some sort of relief, in addition to expanding some of those unique services that we're able to offer. This was one of the things we really took a hard look at, and we've listened over the course of the 5 years that I've been here anyway, with that concern about Bonney Lake versus Bellevue, for instance.
One other question. Now, did we raise the rates when the recycling went up a lot higher when the cardboard went up?
Correct. Yes.
So as that comes down, you can lower that type of expense for ourselves?
Well, it's still extremely volatile.
Okay.
It's still extremely volatile. As a matter of fact, all commodities, or whether we're talking recycling, metals, or you name it, in times where that R word becomes on the outer bands or getting closer to the inner bands of the radar, the commodities markets get increasingly more volatile. We receive updates from the recycle processors on a monthly basis. Matter of fact, I received an update today letting us know that in many cases, material is sitting on the floor of sorting facilities because there is a glut of material and the demand is beginning to slow, which is it gives a whole lot of uncertainty as to the future for sure. We're still in a good spot. Looking ahead to March 1st, when adjustments are typically made. Again, typically it's for the change in the landfill rates and CPI. However, a couple of years over the last 5, there have been adjustments for recycling, as you well know. I still feel confident that the rates for the citizens are covered by the adjustments that had to be made a couple of years back.
Josh, remind me, is there a senior discount for a low income?
Actually, this was a question I think Councilmember Evans asked a couple of years ago. The contract doesn't currently provide for that. We would be open to that. We have a couple of cities that do include that as part of their contract. I think one thing to keep in mind is the burden of proof, I suppose. And in the cities where we do have that, the burden of proof is on the city. Typically, there's an application process where low-income people that meet a certain threshold have to apply to the city. The city monitors that on an annual basis and then ultimately informs us which of those customers do in fact qualify for a low-income or discounted rate.
We already do that with water, right?
Yes.
The verification
Yeah, and
process.
they have to have the
Pierce County's threshold.
Tax, senior tax rate. That's how they
for the
prove
tax.
that.
Okay.
I'm seeing the current rates in here, but how much should they go up on like a 35 gallon at $32.22?
So as of right now, the residential rates, all of our normal adjustments are remaining on the normal cycle. March 1st, I have the opportunity to stand before council in Q1 and let you know what CPI is doing and what the landfill has informed us of. The only adjustment that would commence at the onset of this new agreement is an adjustment for commercial recycling. What we've experienced over the course of the last few years is that in some of our contracted areas, Bonney Lake being one of those, the gap between the market price for the rest of Pierce County and some of the contracted prices has widened to a point where it really doesn't make any sense. Certainly, and as you've referenced, Councilmember Watson, we always like to provide some sort of preferential treatment to to our cities that have opted to contract with us. The adjustments for commercial recycling that we've proposed for the onset of this agreement actually do take into account what Pierce County market rates are, with a 10% discount to those market rates. And then, further, I think the one thing to keep in mind is that as we go along in this agreement, over the course of the next 10 years, the only things that adjust those rates are CPI and or, let's say, recycling just blew up, and was no longer covered by what we did a couple of years ago. It would be a request to the council for consideration on a one-time adjustment for those considerations. Whereas, for instance, if they were not contracted, the commercial rates were not contracted, there wouldn't be those safeguards in place, I suppose.
I know a few years ago you were going, I believe, to China and then switched to India. Is that?
Well, it wasn't us.
Well,
it wasn't.
the
So
recycler,
we're still going to Fredericton is where we're
Yeah.
going. A lot closer than China or
Yeah.
India. Ultimately, the third-party processors that we take our material to, they market their material wherever they can. Yes, for a decade plus, the overwhelming majority of all of the United States' material was heading to the Chinese market for a variety of reasons.
with contamination being the issue, that was why they were turning away.
Yes.
Is that stabilized now?
I'd say it's stabilized, not enough for China to open their doors again.
Okay.
It's stabilized enough to begin to create some domestic capacity. However, ironically enough, keeping material domestic is much more expensive than shipping it across the ocean to China. The math associated with that is sort of mind-blowing. Trucking a ton of recycling is much more expensive than utilizing those empty shipping containers that were heading back to China. So the economics of that ultimately are reflected in today's pricing versus call it 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
One other change to note is the last time we did the extension, it was for a 5-year period.
Right.
And as we talked about earlier, this would be a 10-year term with a possibility of a 3-year extension.
Why did you change from 5 to 10?
The reason that we're proposing 5 to 10, really over the course of the last couple of years, as you know, going back to the inflation word, the cost of assets for us has in some cases doubled. Buying a roll-off box, for instance, big construction debris containers, has literally doubled. 2 years ago, we paid $7,000 for a brand new box. Today, it's north of 14. Garbage trucks, when we order them, I'm getting ready to put together my budget right now. The price today, when we ultimately receive it next year, we will be outpaced of what today's pricing is. Really, the impetus for making that proposal is really, it comes down to trucks. Quite frankly, the book life for our trucks is 10 years. So having a greater level of security for that significant investment. The average residential truck that runs through your neighborhood these days costs, we're knocking on the door of $600,000, and ensuring that we have security for at least the book life of that investment is now more important than ever to us.
And I can see that too, because 10 years ago, we used to switch companies.
Yeah.
So that'd be a real concern for you that way.
And for us, just so you know, we've got 9 local agreements. We've got agreements with 9 local municipalities. And what we're proposing in Bonney Lake is standard to what we've done recently with Buckley, what we've done recently with Sumner. And matter of fact, I'll be standing before the council in the city of Milton next week. Our proposal with Milton mirrors that for those very same reasons.
Oh, you got anything else?
That I did. I thought I had some yellow markers.
Okay. When is this looking to come forward, John?
That would be up to you. It doesn't expire until December 31st.
Oh, okay.
Certainly, we'd like to get it done before then. So I was presuming you'd want to go to a workshop, possibly.
Yeah. Would be good. I'm looking at the projected agendas here. Is there a time in between now and budget talks that we have anything on
Yeah,
the
I can
workshop?
find something.
Okay.
A workshop when it's kind of light.
Yeah, I think that'd be fair.
You know, if the rest of them have any real concerns, touring the recycle center would really open their eyes what goes on and all that.
Yeah, that
debris,
facility
just-
down there is incredible.
Yeah, we went that before. It was just amazing, and you didn't realize what those people go through down there.
And your service team's awesome. One of the wheels broke on my truck. They said, leave it out. Or not my truck, on my can. Said, leave it out, and they pulled up, and I thought they're going to swap it out, but they just fixed it, which to me, I think is great because we didn't have to throw something away that was useful minus a plastic wheel.
I had a broken lid here a couple months ago, and I got a whole new can.
I do like the purple cans though.
Thank you.
That's going towards Mary Bridge.
Mary Bridge. So we actually launched that program. That partnership launched in April of 21. And since the inception of that partnership, we've raised, I think we're just short of $90,000. 100% of all proceeds go directly to.
Incredible.
I have one.
That's awesome.
All right.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Good
I'll
job.
work with Sadie to find a workshop agenda.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good thing.
I always give my driver a treat of some sort. We're doing popsicles now. He likes those.
Awesome.
All right. We'll move
Great.
on.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to stick around.
No, it's okay. I'm going to say goodnight. Thanks so much.
We'll see you
Nice to see
Saturday.
you all.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
looking forward to it.
All right, we'll move on to item 2, AB 22-131, Resolution 3083, a second amendment to the Tacoma Point site lease agreement. John?
Yeah, so since 1995, AT&T, now doing business as Singular Wireless, has been located on our Tacoma Point well site. I think most of you are aware we just built a new tank there that is a little bit taller than the old one. And so understandably, they want to relocate their antennas from the old water tank to the new water tank before we tear down the old water tank. So what they are proposing is as was noted, the second amendment to the site lease agreement with new Singular Wireless at the Point site would be for an initial 5-year term with 5-year renewals thereafter. Currently, the lease rate is $27,063. They're proposing that they keep that rate the same. However, that's something I think we should discuss here at the Finance Committee. They need to move, and we've got the higher ground. So
That's my first thought.
there is a current 5% a year escalation in this, which is what is in the current agreement.
That's
So,
like nothing.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on the amount of the lease, or I honestly don't know what site leases are.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is
Yeah.
going rate?
Secondary to that, we just put solar panels on our public works center.
On the peaking storage tank site.
Peaking store, yeah. Is that something that, if we're putting something on the lid, is that something that is an option there? Is that a cost-effective way to also lease that space out in lieu of?
In lieu of the cellular tower.
Yeah.
So this is Tacoma Point. It's up on the north end of the lake.
No, I know, but if we're gonna be putting stuff on there, is putting solar on there for getting a lease from whoever we lease the solar from, does that pay back?
You're talking about
Yeah, PSC, does that pay back more than?
PSC picked out where they wanted to go. I remember the conversation.
I think
It was a test program. And
competitive process.
we were like 4 cities they picked out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I knew it was
Yeah,
a test. I
It was on
wasn't sure.
CDC.
Okay.
That's where it came from.
Okay.
It's a test program.
Probably Singular is back in the game. I thought they were long since
They're
gone.
new Singular.
Yeah,
New Singular Wireless. It's not old Singular.
Well, that's who AT&T bought out 20 years ago.
Is there any way you can find out research this? If the area?
Yeah, certainly we could ask around and see what current
We
lease rates.
can get a
are
few
for.
more dollars every year. It'd be nice. I'll pay for something, especially with all our Where does that money go, to the general fund? Or is that gonna be for
Sherry, do you know
water?
where?
The water fund, if it's a water tank.
The water fund. That was my thought, that that would go to there. That would help us in more tanks.
Yeah, so I can certainly, we can do some more research and try and find out what current lease rates
What
are
do you
for cell
think?
towers.
I mean, the most we're gonna get is another $6,000 or $8,000. I mean, we're gonna be 35,000 then at the end of the year versus 27, so. Not changing water bills.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but it's adding something
Yeah,
to the pot, which would be nice. Justin says 35,000.
35?
Gotta have a number someplace.
That's what I heard.
35 and 7%.
35 and 7?
There you go.
Okay,
That's what they say.
great.
They got a higher tank now.
Where'd you find
Better
that?
reception.
I literally was just throwing it out there.
Oh, okay.
It's just not, I
I was Googling. I was like, so where'd
That's what he's usually doing over there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they say yes, do you want to come back to finance or?
I think if they say yes, we just put it on the consent
on the
agenda.
consent agenda?
Yeah,
You okay with that?
right.
Not gonna wrong.
All right, item number 3, AB 22-131, resolution 3084, the opioid settlement allocation agreement.
It's 132.
132?
132.
Oh, that, okay, yeah.
Are
At least you got the page right.
Great, thank you. So this is the third and final document that the city needs to sign in order to participate in the settlement. Basically, the Attorney General's office in the state of Washington had a really big lawsuit against the main pharmaceutical companies involved in the opioid epidemic. This is the third and final document to sign in order for the city to eventually get 0.12% of the funds that are set aside for cities.
So the first year was what, 20,800, about 15,000 years 3, 4, and 5, and it just kind of dropped off.
Yeah,
After
there was
that.
like the 7 years.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And Sherry, you said there's some some restrictions on this money?
Yeah, Dina
Yeah.
probably can speak to those.
Okay.
yeah, so the funds have to be spent on basically something that is connected to that. So for example, like treatment or rehabilitation programs. So you can't use it to, for example, fill a pothole in the street. But,
Okay.
it would probably could be connected to something in the police department, prosecutor's office, court, public defender, in terms of potentially, additional funds for community court, additional funds maybe for treatment agencies in the community. So I think that you kind of like the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
You can probably find a way to have it connected to something council's interested in funding. If in the end council's not interested in funding anything, similar to ARPA, you can always just give the money back and it gets distributed to other cities.
I like the way the community court's been going, and I know that's a temporary
It's a grant.
grant
yes.
right now, so I'm accepting that for something
That'd be a
that,
good spot for it. Yeah.
that's about a quarter of the cost.
I
20,000?
think that,
Like 80?
how much is the grant? Like two
Community court's $4,000 a month.
Okay,
for the for Ms. Johnson, the community court
okay.
person.
12, 40, okay, 48. So that's at least cover close to half of that for the first year and work your way down. I mean, that helps keep that going a little longer because I know it's such a good resource for us. Any reason on how they figured out the 0.12 for us and all that?
It was based off of population, and they had a whole bunch of stuff where they estimated how much drug addiction was essentially affecting that local community.
Oh, okay. You guys have any questions or concerns on that?
This is on consent tonight.
Sent
Yeah.
tonight.
Sounds good.
I think it's okay remaining on that. All right, thank you. We'll move on to AB 22-124, ordinance D 22-124, amending the Bonney Lake Municipal Code 3.9.012 relating to police department fees, relating to miscellaneous fees, and it's not Chief Jeter.
Everything got passed on. Sorry,
Is it Brian?
it's me.
Oh, okay, Sadie, go ahead. Oh,
But she's here.
This is just, we haven't updated our notary app fees since 2003. We're still at $5 per stamp. And in 2018, the WAC got updated that we can charge a maximum. So I'm proposing to $10 per stamp. The city clerk dollars. Then
okay.
What other cities charge? Andy?
over the
Okay.
And this is on the agenda tonight, on the consent agenda tonight.
I guess that's fine.
Anyone have any issues or concern with that? Is this a, I mean, it can't be a significant thing here, right? We're not-
How many notaries do you-
It depends. Some months we can get upwards to 10 or 12, some months 0. Depends on senior people are getting ready to do all their wills. Sometimes there's a big rush of them.
Be a rush in October and November.
I didn't know you did that. And I had to pay it. One to come to my house and sign our stuff, or redo our will and stuff, and won't come up to do
The
it.
notary part, yeah,
Yeah,
can be done here.
I didn't know.
I can do it for you for free. Hey, Sherry, on the budget that you're working on, make sure you add an extra $60 a month. We got you.
Got you covered, Sherry.
Awesome. You know, you just saved my budget. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we do here. Kelly, you okay with that being on consent tonight? All right. Right. We will move on now to item number 5.
It's the food, I think.
The approval of the minutes from August 23rd.
You did a great job. No corrections.
All right. We will slide
Good
down
job,
now
Debbie.
into open discussion. Is there any?
I think I know what we're doing about the budget discussions in the future. What's the plan exactly, John, for all of us?
I think I know what we're doing, but
Sherry?
Yeah, I can.
What we position
I
the
got
budget
you.
and fifty-
So,
okay.
hopefully either tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, I will be sending you guys out a copy of what the budget's looking like. With the memo, I don't know if you remember, it's been 2 years, but usually I send you out a memo and give you kind of the highlights version before I send it out through the council packet. So that'll come out either tomorrow or next week. And then on the 27th, we are going to start the decision card process. I believe it should be fairly similar to the last time we did it in terms of the amount of decision cards and the time it'll take. Last time we did 4 meetings, 3 meetings for presentations, 1 meeting to vote. But this time what we're going to do is do it by fund. So you'll have, say, your water fund in one presentation, and then you'll vote on those decision cards the same night. So that way you can kind of go, okay, I've dealt with that fund, and now I can kind of let it go. And then you'll do sewer fund and vote on those the same night. So whatever ones you see will be voted on the same night. So we won't come back, and then you have to remember, now wait, how did that discussion go? Did I want to vote yes? Did I want to vote no? So you'll get the presentation and then vote on that fund all in one night.
Could I make a request that when we get to that point, can we do it from largest value to smallest? Because that would help how I would vote on things. If the first thing that had a higher dollar amount got voted no on, well, that might change my vote on 2 or 3 things lower because of because there was a
By
time
fund.
that
Yep, I can sort them.
I wouldn't have had it had been flip-flopped with something else that got voted no on overall.
Yeah, I can certainly sort them highest to lowest, no problem.
Okay.
By fund, of course.
Yeah.
And
We should know.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have department heads there for all this too?
Yep.
Whoever
We've done it
is
this way
presenting, yeah,
before.
they'll be, yeah, this is how, the only thing I didn't do before was obviously sort them from highest to lowest. Yeah, but this process is the same, yes. So
Well,
you'll get an
except
email
for
from me kind of
Last year, or
explaining.
the last time was COVID where we were doing the,
Right.
everything virtual with
But we
our,
were voting at the end.
yeah.
Voting.
Yeah, you voted at the end on all the funds at one time, which got confusing for folks because you're intermixing different funds and I can't intermix funds. So it made it really kind of, it's more cumbersome. So you'll vote by fund each meeting.
I like
And
that.
you've done that, or you haven't done it before? You haven't voted by fund before?
I don't recall. Yeah.
No, and this is only, Councilmember Clements, this is only for the decision cards. So the budget will be voted all together at the end of the entire process. You'll vote on the budget as a whole, not by fund. But the decision card process, which is a new program or something that costs over a certain threshold, those come to you guys to decide, do we want to include it in our budget? Do we value that service or item? Or do we not want to include it in the budget? They've all been vetted by the mayor at this point, and the ones that are moving forward, the mayor feels that there's value and he wants to let you decide. I'll give you a spoiler alert. One of them would be, you have the new Allen York Park turf coming up, right? So you'll have the opportunity to decide, do you want the turf contract, someone to maintain those fields, pay for a contract, or do you want to buy the equipment and have our parks folks maintain that field? It's going to be an either or sort of thing. And that's what you guys get to decide. The mayor said, both work for me. We'll let the council decide which works for them. Does that make sense?
More than one? We have more than one park person?
No.
No.
We have two authorized, but we have one person,
We have
two
an official
authorized.
person.
Thanks, Sherry.
And that's a good example, because that was my concern way back when we got that turf. How can we maintain that stuff?
Well, you're going to have the option to choose, Tom.
Thank you. Excellent. All about turf here pretty quick.
Anyone else for open discussion?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We will
You
adjourn
guys are
this meeting.
amazing. Good job, Chief.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.